Yo, hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another MLB DFS Slurve video here at No Huddle Fantasy Sports. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in here to the channel, to No Huddle Fantasy Sports. We are talking baseball-specific DFS for tonight. It's Wednesday, September 16th, 2020. We're talking main slate. We're going to dive into the FanDuel specific browser here. Usually on these Slurve videos, we do use the FanDuel app, specifically on the phone. But today, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We had a lot of fun with NFL, diving into the web browser application, whatever you would call it. So we're going to do the same thing here. In addition to that, I'm switching it up a little bit. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes here of how I use an optimizer, how I kind of build the lineups, get a lot of this information, use fan graphs. So by using a computer specifically here, we're going to be able to do that. So it's going to be a fun one. We have a really interesting slate ahead of us. You can see here as we navigate over to a contest. On FanDuel specifically, we have 9 total games available to us. Shorter slate, smaller slate, but nonetheless a great slate. Arguably, there's 4 or 5 ace pitchers on the mound tonight. Whether you're talking DeGrom, Garrett Cole, Giolito, Bundy may even be considered an ace at this point. And then Zach Wheeler's having an excellent season also for Philadelphia. So a lot of great pitching options. You can go a number of different ways. In addition to that, you have some great stacks also available. So in general, though, we're going to dive into it here. We're going to talk the main slate tonight on FanDuel. If you're playing on DraftKings and watching this video, I do talk mainly FanDuel here, of course. It does apply a lot of the same analysis over to DraftKings, so hopefully this is helpful for you too. But to start things off, we like to talk Vegas, we like to talk weather. I'll start by going over to the Daily Fantasy Nerd Optimizer here. You can see the web browser here. Daily Fantasy Nerd, I talk about it a lot. It is the optimizer I use. There's an affiliate link down below in the description. I encourage you guys to check it out. I believe you get a free month free. That sounds kind of weird. But for a free month, why not? You can use it for football. You can use it for baseball. It's absolutely excellent for MLB. I've been using it for football too, especially if you want to set a number of lineups, especially if you're trying to find or having trouble finding value plays. This optimizer is great, so please check it out. But in general, this is what it looks like. As I mentioned, you can kind of get, it's not even kind of, you get all sports for one specific price here. There are 3 different tiers, but no matter which one you pick, you get all sports. It's not like other ones where you pay per sport. But diving into it here, there's no real weather concerns tonight, which is great. All these games look like they're going to happen relatively cooler temperatures, but in general, no real rain delay. There's not a significant amount of wind in any particular game. So everything's looking pretty good here. But what I want to do first, as always, we talk Vegas. We can quickly just bring up the Vegas lines here for you guys. I talked about how many great pitchers are on the slate. Well, there's also great stacks. That's why this smaller slate is shaping up to be a really interesting, great overall slate. You can see here Atlanta, New York Yankees, the LA Angels, and Houston all projected above 5 runs tonight. Always want to target teams for stacks above 5, or at least get them into consideration. And then beyond that, there's a lot of 4, high end of 4 runs projected for a number of teams too. So really interesting night. A lot of good spots you can go with in terms of stacks, in terms of bats. And then on the flip side, of course, towards the bottom here, you can see here we have, 5 teams below 4 runs projected. So if you're talking about picking a pitcher, well, hey, Minnesota, Arizona, Texas, Toronto, and Philadelphia all projected below that 4 number, that threshold that we like to target when looking at a pitcher to start. So just a quick outlook there, quick preview of what we're dealing with at the slate. Don't be scared of a 9-game slate, man. This is going to be an excellent one tonight, so I am excited to get into it. But let's dive into a contest here. As we do in our Slurve videos, I'm going to try to speed things up. We're going to go through everything. I will say it is Wednesday. I typically put out a more in-depth baseball video, but since football has come around, we're putting out a lot more content on this channel. I just don't honestly have enough time to do that video today. So going forward, those videos, those more in-depth videos will be on Fridays only for MLB. So on Friday, you're going to get an MLB video, an NFL video, an in-depth one for each. Every other day are going to be these Slurve videos, quicker videos covering the slate as a whole. The same research has gone in, so you guys can trust in that. But in general, we're going to just quickly get through a video, and that's how it's going to work. So starting off here, in my opinion, you can go a number of different ways at pitching. I think you need a stick at the top here, but you have DeGrom, Cole, Bundy, Wheeler, Giolito, all at $9,000 or above, all elite pitchers. Each one of them is playable for their own various reasons. For me personally, I'm probably sticking to 2 guys here. It's going to be DeGrom and it's going to be Bundy. DeGrom over Cole. That's basically split it up like this. I think DeGrom is in a better spot versus Philadelphia versus Cole versus New York. It's tricky. As I mentioned, I don't know where your guys' heads are at tonight in terms of these two pitchers. They're priced pretty much the same, 10-5 versus 10-7. The difference being Cole gets the benefit of pitching at home versus a team he has not faced, whereas DeGrom is on the road, but against a Philadelphia team that has been very, very bad versus right-handers this year, a team that he just dominated. So it's kind of a flip of a coin here. Personally, though, I do like DeGrom. I think most people are going to go with the home pitcher, Cole. You like to take that versus a Toronto team. But I mean, Toronto is nearly top 10 in terms of every advanced stat versus right-handers. And so far this year, DeGrom has looked better than Cole. So that's where I'm going. We'll click on him here. We'll look at DeGrom. As I mentioned, the downside here is he's on the road, and he has just faced Philadelphia, but he dominated them. He went 7 innings, only gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts, only 1 earned run, got the W, and got the quality start here. It's going to be a tough situation in that he's facing Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler has been excellent this year. The Mets have struggled against Zach Wheeler, so a little bit of a tough spot in terms of a win, but I do like him. I really do like DeGrom here. If we switch back over to the optimizer here, be perfectly honest with you, if you're talking about total points, Cole is projected to score higher. I'm hoping the ownership goes towards Cole and not DeGrom. I'm sticking with DeGrom. The dude has been excellent. His numbers are insane. You can see here a 33% strikeout rate so far. That number has actually increased over his last couple of starts. He's pushing 40%, whereas Garrett Cole has at times this year struggled. He gives up the long ball a little bit more. I just like DeGrom more here, so that's where I'm going to be headed. And as I mentioned, you would think Philadelphia is good with a lot of left-handers versus a right-handed pitcher, but they are not. In fact, so far this year, they have a 98 WRC+, that's 18th overall in baseball, 320 WOBA, 165 ISO, all bottom half of the league for Philadelphia in terms of facing right-handers, whereas Toronto, which Cole's facing, has a 106 WRC+, that's ranked 11th, 328 WOBA and 193 ISO, so much better numbers versus righties for that Toronto team. So in general, that's where I'm going. But the other guy I want to look at here, versus Wheeler, versus Giolito, I'm going Bundy. He is a little bit more expensive by $200, but that really doesn't matter here. He is the home pitcher, and in fact, he's probably my number 1 pitcher on the slate. I'm going to be playing some more expensive contests, some more expensive tournaments tonight. I'm very excited for tonight, and I'm going Bundy in those. As I mentioned, $9,800 here. He has pitched excellent this year. He's at home in LA, a good park, a cooler park at this time of year. Great for pitchers. He's coming off an excellent 62-point performance versus Texas on the road. I mean, he has really been a great pitcher this year, has shown double-digit strikeout upside multiple times. If we flip over to Daily Fantasy Nerd here and go down to Bundy, you can see here a 25% strikeout rate, but that has pushed higher this year. It's actually approaching that 27% rate, so you have to like that. Only 3.68 runs projected for that Arizona team, but more importantly, what you're getting out of him is a great matchup. I think of all pitchers, elite pitchers on this slate, he has the best matchup. Arizona has an 88 WRC plus for 2020. That's 24th in the league, 306 WOBA, 161 ISO. So all those numbers are literally bottom 5, bottom 6th in all of baseball versus right-handers. So he's in an excellent spot. He's been pitching excellent. He saves you nearly $2,000 off the top tier guys. I really like Dylan Bundy, so we're going to throw him in the lineup here. And there's no one really else of interest here. Stay away. I mean, Cole Hamels, we'll see what happens. Atlanta really needs him to pitch well. He could be a great pitcher for them, but he's probably going to be on a pitch count. Lance McCullers, same deal. He's coming off of injury, so you're on a pitch count limit there. So that really takes away a lot of options in terms of pitching that I'm interested in. So I'm going to stick with Bundy here. We're going to load him up. And let's switch over to stacks here. So I'll stay in this pitcher range. The first stack I do want to mention, I think Atlanta, I mean, they are projected. If we go back to the lineup optimizer here, go back to Daily Fantasy Nerd, you can see right off the bat, Atlanta projected 5.7 runs tonight. So they're certainly going to be owned, but I think they're in a great spot facing a left-hander tonight. If we scroll over here, facing Keegan Aiken, Now, there isn't much information on this guy. He has not pitched well this year, but he has not also pitched much in general. So he gave up 4 earned runs in only 0.2 innings, has had several games above 4 innings, has hit that 90 pitch count limit, so that's good. He pitched well against New York and then didn't. Kind of up and down here, but the numbers are not good for him. In Atlanta, facing a right-hander, that's not necessarily where they're best at, or versus a left-hander, that's not necessarily their best split there, but they certainly still are an excellent stack. In fact, they have an 89 WRC plus, which isn't great for 2020, 306 WOBA and 163 ISO. So that's for 2020, but more importantly, what stands out to me, they are now top 10. All those numbers significantly increase if you focus over the last 14 days. What has happened over the last 14 days? They've added Acuna to the lineup, a big righty, and they've added Albies into their lineup, a great switch hitting, great hitter. So, you know, the lineup has gotten better. I think it's a great spot. If we actually just focus in here for a quick second on Atlanta and talk about some of my favorite plays. So I think you get Acuna in your lineup. You can go with the lefty Freeman, lefty on lefty, always good for him. But depending on how this lineup comes out, I do like Travis d'Arnaud. If Duvall hopefully is hitting higher, he has been on absolute fire. And then wherever you want to go elsewhere, so say it's Ozuna, I think that fits very well. Now you're obviously going to affect an expensive stack. You now have 2,600, but I do really like this stack. Versus that Akin, I can't give you very many stats on him other than the fact he hasn't been good. And at this point, I should mention, if you guys haven't already checked it out, down in the description is this free PDF where I rank all the pitchers based upon the various stats that are available on the main slate. And so you can see here, for Akin, you're not going to get much information from this because he doesn't have very many pitches or very many innings under his belt. But in general, I really like the stack here, focusing on a lot of these rights. You can find value should you want to. You can put your Swansons in. There's various ways you can go up and down the order. I do like the Atlanta Braves. Another stack I do want to mention here is the New York Yankees. So they put up like 21 runs last night. You saw DJ LeMahieu just take a guy, I don't even know who was pitching. Some position player came in when they were up 19 or down 19-3 for the opposing team, and DJ LeMahieu just hit like a 20-mile-an-hour pitch, 4,000 feet. So kind of annoying, but hey, a lot of people are going to go to the New York Yankees tonight. They are playing at home, which is a little bit of a bummer. But if you scroll down here, they are facing Tanner Roark. He's coming up on every one of my lists in terms of a guy you want to attack, so I completely understand it. The reason I'm going Atlanta over this in terms of a stack order is simply because of the runs that were scored last night. I think everybody's going to flock. Everybody's going to game log, game whatever, and follow that team that just put up 21 runs. So you're going to see a ton of ownership for the New York Yankees here. But Tanner Roark has not been good for this season. Specifically, as I mentioned, if you guys check out the cheat sheet here, he is listed number 1 versus lefties, a 5.42 xFIP, just horrendous, but he's not much better versus righties, 4.27. His other numbers are just not good either. You can see here a 362 WOBA to lefties. You come back down here, that's 345 to righties, so certainly not good. More importantly, he's barely striking anyone out. His strikeout rate sits about 22% or less, depending on if it's a lefty or righty. He's also giving up a ton of hard contact, 38%, and it gets even higher versus righties at 39%. So he's getting hit hard. He's pretty much a 30 to 40% fly ball guy, and then he's giving up home runs. You can see 1.77 to lefties, and then for righties here 1.64. So again, Tanner Roark, just the numbers are pretty awful, and the New York Yankees are in a great spot as a stack as a whole. There's a ton of options available for the Yankees tonight, but they do get expensive. You have Stanton back in the lineup. I'm probably going to stay away from him, given that it's a right on right here. Stick with a lot of your lefties here, but in general, you can go with basically anyone. My favorite play is probably Aaron Hicks from the lineup. We'll see if Gardner is in the lineup because of that left on right, split for him. But in general, Like I mentioned, DJ LeMahieu has been just absolutely on fire. Lucas Voigt's been on fire. You could go a number of different ways. The Yankee stack is certainly in play. But the one other stack I want to mention here, I'll mention a couple in general, but the other one I'm heavily interested in tonight is the Chicago White Sox. They also are in a good spot tonight. Switching back over to the Daily Fantasy Nerd here, you can see they're facing Jake Odorizzi. There's nothing particularly interesting about Jake Odorizzi. He doesn't stand out. He has a 4.33 xFIP to lefties. If you go over here to righties, still 4.33, so pretty even. Has 100+ innings under his belt versus each, so that's good to see. We have a good sample size here. I'm not saying there's anything in particular that stands out about Odorizzi. He just is not great, but he's also not bad. More importantly, the Chicago White Sox are excellent, absolutely excellent, basically as an offense in 2020, but also versus righties, which was surprising to me. I've attacked lefties with them often, but in general, for 2020, they're still top 10 versus righties. They have a 111 WRC plus, which is 7th overall in baseball, 333 WOBA, and a 179 ISO. So they're hitting righties just as well, almost as well as they're hitting lefties. I really like the White Sox versus Jake Odorizzi tonight. Going back to FanDuel here, throwing them in the lineup, I do want to focus on lefties if I can, but I'm certainly not scared. So Juan Moncada is probably my favorite bat out of this lineup, but guys like Tim Anderson are absolutely on fire. Jimenez on fire. Just these guys are hitting so well so far. And then Grandal is another guy I'm really interested in. So the Chicago White Sox in a great spot. Last but not least here, I will mention they aren't top 10, or I should say top 5 in terms of a run projection, but they're a solid 4.63 here. As I mentioned, they're scoring a ton of runs in general as an offense. Their offense has been great. I think it's a sneaky spot, a sneaky stack to get some exposure to. I do really like the White Sox and their ability to hit righties this year as a sneaky stack. The last stack I will mention, I will say first, the Los Angeles Angels are in a good spot tonight. I just don't like taking them in general. They've kind of been a letdown this year. They seem to be giving up. They're facing a lefty. Their numbers are not great versus lefties. They've been better over the last couple of weeks, but just generally not great. I do want to focus on the Cleveland Indians, though, versus John Lester. I do like to attack John Lester. I think if I can switch over here to the Cubs, he's having a pretty brutal season. Has a over 5 ERA so far in the season. Is coming off a great start versus Milwaukee, which is surprising to me. He had 8 strikeouts, didn't give up a run, but he had 2 games right there, including teams like Pittsburgh Pirates, where they put up 5 runs versus him. Milwaukee had earlier in the season. The White Sox, a team that I just mentioned I like to attack lefties with, scored 8 against him. He is really having a bad season. His numbers are not great so far on the year. If we come back here, John Lester, 2 lefties. I mean, that should be a matchup for him left on left, but still a 347 WOBA. If you come back, 2 righties, 342. His xFIP sits at 381 to lefties, so that's respectable, but 467 to righties. More importantly, he's getting hit pretty hard. You can see over on the right-hand side, nearly a 40% hard hit rate to righties, 36% to lefties, so he's getting hit very, very hard. I think he's gotten lucky a few times. We're waiting for him to explode. He has exploded basically a few times already this season, but he's falling apart. He's an older guy here. 1.6 home runs per 9 to righties, and then 0.8 to lefties. So obviously you do want to focus on your right-handed bats versus him. He's playing the Cleveland Indians. I will full-heartedly admit to you, the Cleveland Indians have not been good versus lefties on the season. 75 WRC plus, 288 WOBA, 129 ISO. Those numbers are bad, but they've been better. Over the last 2 weeks, I should say, the numbers have gone up significantly. Not approaching top 10, but you're talking top half of baseball. I think it's a relatively lesser expensive stack, and that's why I like, kind of as another sneaky stack, the Cleveland Indians. More importantly, there's certain guys that stand out as huge value. If I could navigate correctly here, the first guy I want to mention, though, in the lineup tonight should be at $2,200, Jordan Luplow. He should be batting hopefully higher in the order, maybe second. Guy crushes left-handers. I do really like him. Of course, you want to get your Jose Ramirez, a switch hitter. Lindor had a great night last night, $3,300. These guys are very, very inexpensive. A lot of switch hitters, Carlos Santana. But in general, focus on the righties, focus on the switch hitters. Anybody that's leading off or hitting second, I would focus on, simply because I don't know if people know this, but John Lester cannot hold players on base. He's really, really bad in terms of giving up stolen bases. So if you can attack that, I know Cesar Hernandez has been out, typically leads off for them, but anybody that has speed, I would attack that too. You could get a stolen base or two certainly versus this guy. So another stack to mention simply there is the Cleveland Indians. Now, that kind of covers the stacks. I will mention there are some one-off bats I do really like tonight. So for a value bat, I'll just leave them on the board here. Jordan Luplow does stand out to me, certainly in a great spot tonight. But let's go back over to Daily Fantasy Nerd. I'll show you how this kind of works. And if you guys want to check it out, as I mentioned, go down to the affiliate link in the description. But you can simply sort. You can import your own stats here. But some guys that obviously stand out at the top here are the two big righties for the Atlanta Braves. Ronald Acuna, I like more than Ozuna. Both these guys with a high projected total versus lefties. Great spot tonight. We talked about Ramirez. There's another guy I want to mention. Aldo Mondezi, if I pronounce it correctly. Really good price at $2,800 for Kansas City versus a lefty in Skubal. Skubal has not pitched well this season. He's a young guy. He's going to learn. But I do like that $2,800 price tag. And this guy has been hitting well. You can see kind of the, maybe not over the last couple of days, but before that has been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. $2,800, how can you beat that? I like Michael Brantley tonight. Decent total for this Houston team. I don't want to stack them. Gibson is a ground ball guy, but I do like Michael Brantley. Certainly a good lefty, good price on him, $3,200. So those are some of my, outside of the guys I mentioned as part of the stacks, those are some one-off bats I do like. The other thing I love to do here is hit this value button, and it's going to sort this by who has the best value. I already talked about Luplow, $2,200, great price on him. Another guy, Rojas, he's been up on the list. He's batting first or second for Arizona. I'm going to be playing Bundy, so it doesn't apply to me, but certainly has been a value over the last couple of nights. You can just kind of go down the list here. So I don't want to give away all the trade secrets. This is a great company, great organization that puts this stuff together. So, but that's kind of the video here. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I think really quickly we could try to put together a lineup. I mentioned how much I like Atlanta, so let's try to stack Atlanta here with Dylan Bundy and see how far we get. So I don't think we can afford every expensive bat, but if we come down the list here, Swanson, Darno, and Duvall, decent random stack. We'll see how the actual lineups come out, certainly, and that works pretty well. Now another guy I mentioned for the Cleveland Indians at a value price is Jordan Luplow, however you pronounce it. $2,200 gets us back up to a $3,000 average there. Now, depending on where you want to go with your other plays, I mentioned how much I like Moncada tonight as part of that stack. Well, let's get him as a one-off bat here. He stands out, so that works pretty well. We have 2,700 left. I mentioned for Kansas City, another value play that I think stands out is Mondezi. $2,800. That's two shortstops. I don't necessarily like that together, but it's working out so far. And then we need somebody at second base here. So let's back off the Royals and scroll down the list here and see who we can get. Not looking too promising, to be honest with you. We mentioned Rojas, Lopez. Let's just plug somebody in here. That's not going to work. Don't love that play there, but certainly can be adjusted here depending. You see how it works. You see my favorite stack there. I'm going to be doing that. I mentioned favorite pitchers on the slate. Dylan Bundy is probably my favorite pitcher based on price, but if I'm going with the high guys, I'm going with Jacob deGrom, hopefully at lower ownership than Garrett Cole. My favorite stacks on the night are Atlanta, the New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox, and then Cleveland Indians at a very, very cheap value stack there. Hopefully these videos are helpful for you guys. Hopefully it's a little bit more interesting as we do it within the web browser. I'd love to hear some comments if you guys enjoy this more. I'd love to hear if these videos are helpful. Please let me know down below. Please also make sure you're subscribed to the channel, putting out DFS content every single day, whether it's related to MLB or NFL. We've got it all covered here. As I mentioned, check down below the affiliate link for Daily Fantasy Nerd. I showed you some information there. I showed you some behind the scenes, but in general, that stuff will change as lineups come out, as Vegas totals change. So you can't just take it from what I've shown you. So as I mentioned, looking like a great night. A lot of good options at pitching, a lot of good options at stacks. Hopefully, again, this video is helpful for you guys. If it is, make sure you like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Good luck tonight, and I will catch you in the next video.